Good afternoon. Welcome to SFJAZZ. My name is Greg Stern. I'm the CEO of SFJAZZ, and more importantly, welcome to the San Francisco Arts Town Hall Mayoral Forum. You are the reason why we are having this, so give yourselves a hand, please. A huge thank you to Susie McKinnon, Vinay Patel, and everybody at the Arts for a Better Bay Area team for conceiving and executing this important event. If you hadn't noticed, it's an election year. And every citizen of the United States, has just two obligations. One, be informed, and two, vote. That's it. That's it. And that's why we're here today. The Arts Town Hall Mayoral Forum was developed in partnership with many organizations, including ArtSpan, the SF Arts Alliance, Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center, SFJAZZ, SF Symphony, San Francisco Opera, Soma Arts Cultural Center, and others that are represented throughout the Bay Area. The forum brings the lead mayoral candidates together to share their arts and culture platforms, inform and engage voters, and connect and convene the broader arts and culture community to grow support and also form a coalition of arts and cultural advocates. We are honored to have Mayor London Breed, President of the Board Aaron Peskin, Supervisor Ahsha Safaí, and Danial Lurie join us for this town hall. At present, Mark Farrell is unable to join us due to previous commitments, but you never know. Never know who'll show up. A reception after the forum will be held in the lobbies, allowing attendees to connect and network, so please join us after that. And very importantly, this would not be an arts town hall if we didn't have some art. So later, you'll be hearing two different combos. On the stage here, students from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, the RJAM program, Roots, Jazz, and American Music program, and later during the reception on the second floor lobby, a trio made up of three of the SFJAZZ High School All-Stars. So please stick around to enjoy them as well. In the meantime, please welcome the moderators for today's event, Maria Jensen, Executive Director of Soma Arts, and Rodney Earl Jackson Jr., Artistic Director of the San Francisco Bay Area Theater Company.
Yes, thank you for that warm welcome. Yes, hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? All right. Let me get my pages together. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for the Arts Town Hall and doing your part to learn more about the local San Francisco mayoral candidates, priorities for the city of San Francisco, and the arts and cultural ecosystem here. This forum and event aim to help support you in this community. So we hope you will leave today feeling a little more informed about the candidates and your plans to help you guide your votes.
This event is brought to you by Arts for a Better Bay Area and a coalition of local arts organization and workers. That means all of you. And we heard earlier in the year that folks wanted an event like this to bring people together so everyone can get informed, and we followed your wishes. We work with a planning team and reached out to all the mayoral candidates to gauge their interest in participating. And we're thrilled to have 4 of the 5 candidates here today. And the candidates include Mayor London Breed, Mr. Danial Lurie, President of the Board of Supervisors Aaron Peskin, and Supervisor Ahsha Safaí. Yes. I said his name right.
Yes, the ABBA committee reviewed questions from the past forums to develop 11 critical questions that we ranked by the arts community here. And as we have a limited time today, we will ask each candidate 4 of the 11 questions, which were informed by you all. We will submit the questions to the candidates and ask them to each respond. ABBA will share their responses later. So thank you all for lending your voices to the questions.
ABBA's work has always included informing and engaging folks about how ballot measures and key policy initiatives are directly related to arts and culture. Longtime arts advocate and ABBA co-founder Lex Leifheit, in partnership with Ebony McKinney, and may she rest in power, is here to briefly introduce some measures on the November ballot and artist housing highlights. Lex, welcome to the stage.
Yes, let's give Lex a warm welcome.
Thanks, Maria, and hi, everyone. It is great to see so many people here this afternoon. Well, every day, every week, as you know, on a federal, state, and local level, there are decisions made and laws passed that make it easier or harder to work in the arts, and to live as artists and culture bearers. And right now, we have time to discuss 2 items of policy. So first up is Arts on the Ballot, and this is the local ballot here in San Francisco in November. There are 2 measures that address commission reform. They're easy to remember because they're right at the top of the ballot, Prop D and E. And I'll start with Prop D. Both of these measures are commission streamlining measures and impact the mayor's authority. For Prop D, it limits the city and county of San Francisco to a hard cap of 65 commissions. It will preserve 22 automatically, and that does not include the Arts Commission or the Entertainment Commission. Any new or reauthorized commissions, which could include the Arts Commission and Entertainment Commission, would be advisory only. And additional things to know about Prop D is that it prohibits any compensation or benefits of commissioners. And also, should Prop D pass, a task force would go into effect that would advise over 15 months on the implementation of these changes. Next is Prop E. Proposition E does not immediately remove any commissions or set a hard cap. Instead, it authorizes a task force which will analyze and make recommendations that will go into effect as charter unless it is rejected, those recommendations are rejected by 2/3 of the Board of Supervisors. Prop E does not prohibit compensation or benefits of commissioners. It does not automatically dissolve the San Francisco Arts Commission or reduce the authority. And then, what else have I left off here? I think those are the bullet points. So depending on how you feel about commission streamlining and mayoral authority, you have the option of voting for one, none, or both of these. And should both of them have a majority of votes, 50% plus 1, the proposition with the most votes would be the one that goes into effect. All right, moving on to artist housing. Artist housing is an issue we hear about in the arts community every year, every election, and we're trying to get the word out about a bill that passed last October that was signed by Governor Newsom, which is Assembly Bill 812. This bill allows for, when there's required affordable housing, up to 10% of those required affordable housing below market units can be reserved for artists if that housing site is within half a mile of a cultural district. And that includes local cultural districts. So you can see this map up here, which has all the authorized cultural districts. San Francisco's 7 by 7 miles. That covers a lot of ground. So cities that have begun to certify artists for housing include Boston. Los Angeles is currently working on artist housing, and this is just an opportunity we're trying to make our elected leaders and our community aware of, that artists can be prioritized when affordable housing is being built in your neighborhood within a half a mile or within a cultural district. That's all we have time for right now. We're gonna move along to the main event to hear from our mayoral candidates. And back to you, Rodney.
Thank you so much, Lex. Yes. But before we, get into the policy with our candidates about the arts, how about we enjoy some wonderful music here in this auditorium today? So coming to the stage first is the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, the Art Jam team. Nico Colucci on sax and Alan Jones on bass. Let's give it up for them, y'all.
Wow, that was
Yes,
amazing.
yes,
yes,
yes.
yes, yes.
Let's give it up again for Nico Colucci on sax and Alex Jones on bass. Thank you, gents. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Go take some deep breaths
I know.
because that was intense.
They again are from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. Their group is called RJAM, which stands for Roots, Jazz, and American Music. So check them out.
So, community, here's what's next. Each candidate will take turns on the stage and will be asked the same questions so you can compare and contrast their answers. They each have 15 minutes to respond to all 4 questions.
Just a couple of quick housekeeping. Please take this moment right now while I'm talking kind of slow to take out that cell phone and go on and silence it. We're in the theater right now, and we don't need any other distractions but to be present with each other. So go on and take it out and put it on silent. Thank you very much. And last but not least, do you want to do this one? You can do it. We are counting on everyone to keep this space respectful and quiet so that we can hear and absorb all of the information. All right? Okay.
Okay, without further ado, we'd like to invite our very first candidate to the stage, Mayor London Breed.
Good evening. Evening, afternoon, Mayor London Breed. Let's start us off. What are some of the ways you will work to help to energize the whole arts culture ecosystem? What are your priorities?
Well, first of all, I am really proud to come from the arts community. Many of you remember when I was the executive director of the African American Art and Culture Complex for 10 years when arts funding was very challenging to get. One of the reasons why it was very important to me during the pandemic that we not only maintain the levels that we had committed to for arts funding, for grants for the arts and cultural equity grants, even in the midst of a pandemic, it had a lot to do with knowing and understanding that so many of our artists, our performers, our visual artists, count on the resources that are provided to help support their livelihood. And so we not only helped maintain those resources, we came up with some incredibly fun, cool, creative programs that brought a lot of joy to the city, including paying many artists for public murals and performances and other events. And I created the first ever universal basic income program for artists because of the need, again, to recognize and uplift our artist community in San Francisco. My goal in moving forward is not just to recognize and build upon the work that I've already done, but to take it to the next level. My dream has always been to provide housing for artists in San Francisco. And we know that there are a number of ways in which we can do this. And more importantly, working with the private sector, there's now finally real interest in making sure that we don't end up in a situation where we build artist housing, there's a lottery system, and artists may not actually get access to that housing. But how we do it with the public sector and the public and private sector working together will ensure that we can specifically dedicate housing to creatives in a way that allows for us to continue this important ecosystem. And I'm excited about what we've done, what we will do, and how we will, in San Francisco, continue to lead the way with our arts investments because, again, it brings happiness, it brings joy, and I didn't even get into the nightlife and entertainment aspect of all of these grants and closing the streets and doing things that make it easier in this city to get to yes.
As mayor, how will you ensure that direct funding for organizations that provide stability and access continues to grow as the hotel tax recovers? How would you address the issue of equity in the arts?
Well, again, as we have seen hotel revenues continue to decline, I have made it a point to at least maintain our arts funding at the same levels even in the midst of a global pandemic, but also with new innovative programs in different departments outside of cultural equity grants in the Arts Commission and grants for the arts through the City Administrator's Office. We've also opened up opportunities for Office of Economic and Workforce Development because the arts bring in $1.5 billion to our city's economy. So we have to start treating it differently and making sure that access to other resources, not just limited resources, are available to arts as a business. And making sure that when we provide support to many of the businesses we've recently did to activate our night markets, our streets, and our fairs and our events, that we are also making sure that they are paying our artists for whatever role they play, and we're thinking about it in ways that we incorporate into the work we've done. I mean, San Francisco received a $3 million grant from Bloomberg to develop some technical systems to manage and to develop new systems around tracking what we do as it relates to homelessness. And we incorporated an artist component in that work. And so the artist who was selected got a grant to do work associated with technical work from the city. It has to be embedded in the fabric of the work that we do every single day in San Francisco. And because I know intimately what the arts bring, and I've been a part of this community, it is natural for me to incorporate it into everything we do in the city. And I know many arts organizations, and specifically many artists, know that they have benefited tremendously because we have opened up the doors to new opportunities for artists to grow and thrive in San Francisco.
Thank you. You spoke to this a little bit, but given the demand, would you support another UBI, Universal Basic Income Program for individual artists? Would you support below market rate studios and workspace for artists? What other steps would you, as mayor, take to ensure these artists can not only survive, but thrive?
Well, again, the Universal Basic Income Artist Program I started under my administration because I know that the challenges, especially with new state laws that have made it possible for some organizations to, instead of paying artists as contractors, to now have to pay artists as employees, a lot of the anticipated expenses that come with that has been really challenging for some of these arts organizations to provide those opportunities to artists, but more importantly, for those artists to be able to do opportunities outside a specific organization. Providing a stable source of income can help allow for financial stability for our artists in order to do what they do best, be creatives, not being administrators, not administering like what you do in your everyday roles, but being able to go out and to give us their very best and not worry about the paperwork. So I'm always open to the possibility. As the director of an arts organization, I wasn't an artist, I was an administrator. I managed things. I managed grants for some extraordinary artists. We would not have been able to be blessed with their talent had we not provided them with the opportunity, and we did the paperwork, we did the management, we made sure that they had the resources necessary so that they can focus on what they do best, and that is the direction that we are headed in this city.
On the November 4 ballot, there are two ballot initiatives, D and E, focused on city commissions reforms. What are your positions on the measures and their effect on the arts?
Well, to be very clear, I'm not supporting either measure, but I have worked with SPUR to do an analysis so that we can go through a clear, comprehensive process. I know this is important to the arts community because this gets rid of the Arts Commission. Even though it can be brought back, it still is a bit scary. We have public design projects. Some of you know the Maya Angelou sculpture or artwork will be revealed in front of the San Francisco Public Library tomorrow. We have a lot of public art designs and a lot of financial resources and cultural equity grants and civic design, you name it. This all goes through the Arts Commission. And so without that commission, it falls on the hands of the Board of Supervisors. That's part of the problem. So you don't just throw it out and say, okay, we can bring it back if we want to. You work with people. You just don't do it behind closed doors, even though we tried our best in my office to fix it, but the deadline was looming, so it's what we have. Dealing with deconstructing our city's charter, which has been built up over the decades, it is not something that one person should get to decide on. It is important that people in this city understand the impacts of these various boards and commissions. And I'll be honest, yeah, some of them need to go. But some of them have been worked on very hard, involving some incredible people who have the knowledge, understanding, and expertise to make sure that the processes that we put on the table to ensure fairness when we're going through a competitive bid process to make these selections of civic art and design and some grant opportunities that we provide, and that they're being equally distributed geographically around the city. That takes making sure that we have what we have in our Arts Commission right now. So this is not the right way, and I do not support either one.
Thank you so much. With our last 5 minutes, do you have any last comment for the arts community of San Francisco?
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to I know to the arts community, the other thing that's also important is the Dreamkeeper initiative. And more recently, we know that there has been some real challenges. And look, as the mayor of this city with over 34,000 employees, every now and then we're going to have some challenges. And I take full responsibility for that. You know, and where we are now is putting a pause on those resources so that we can go through a full and transparent process of vetting every single dollar. The controller is at the table to address that, because I know to the people that the Dreamkeeper Initiative has helped and supported, it means everything. It's their first opportunity of getting any resources from the city to allow the rest of this city to see their extraordinary talent. We're talking about people and organizations who couldn't even get a cultural equity grant or money from Grants for the Arts that are born and raised in this city and deserve an opportunity to be at the table. This program is valuable, and it has helped make a difference in home ownership, nonprofit organizations, new businesses for African Americans, and as I said, the arts community, which has seen, you know, just a focus on specific resources coming from one place or another. We are expanding all those resources to all different things. So I ask our arts community to just be patient with us. We have to at least investigate this, make sure that we do a full and transparent investigation and make that available to the public. But it does require patience, because we need to ensure the success of this program. And so we have to dig deep to get there. And I knew that that was of a concern. And last but not least, there is no other person running against me that can come anywhere close to what I've done and what I will continue to do to invest in, support, uplift the arts community of San Francisco. No one understands it more intimately than I do, because I've lived in it just like so many of you who run organizations where you have to scrape for dollars to pay for toilet paper or keep the lights on or keep the doors open or pay your artists. I understand what that means, which is why I have invested heavily. We have seen arts resources in this city grow substantially. Yes, because of the voters a couple of years ago with Prop E, but also the additional resources that I continue to invest in all departments of San Francisco to make it happen as well. I appreciate the fact that so many of you use your platforms as a way to make San Francisco look good and make San Francisco feel good. Your art brings excitement and joy. It got us through the pandemic, and it has got us to a time now that we're experiencing a new chapter in San Francisco, a new emergence. People are trying to say what we are. They're trying to define our city as some doom loop or whatever, and they don't even live here. So what we're gonna do, and what the arts community does best, we don't talk about who we are, we show them who we are with our talent and the incredible people that make up San Francisco. And that has everything to do with folks who are visual, performing artists, and everything in between. I'd be honored to have your support as mayor, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you so much, Mayor London Breed. We are going to just keep it on moving. Coming to the stage now, I would like to introduce Mr. Danial Lurie.
Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Lurie. Question number 1, what are some of the ways you would work to help energize the whole arts ecosystem? What are your priorities?
Well, let me first say thank you for having me today. Thank you for allowing me this moment. I was raised by parents that instilled in me this notion that the arts and our creative class are what make our communities great and strong and vibrant, and what made San Francisco great and strong and vibrant. And to just say it out loud, my wife and I are committed deeply to our arts community. Everything that we do is surrounded by the arts community, from small organizations to our large-scale organizations. We need to have the ecosystem thriving. Right now, we know our performing arts are struggling down on Market Street because of public safety issues and people not wanting to come downtown. Our symphony, our opera, the big ones, are struggling financially, and that's going to hurt our small arts organizations. And so you will have in me a mayor that is committed to the entire ecosystem. On what I've done, I started, co-founded something with a man named Manny in the Mission called the Civic Joy Fund a couple years ago, and we wanted to take the issue of reviving our city into our own hands. We didn't want to wait for anybody else, and we created the Summer of Music. We worked with Paint, the city, to have artists paint electrical boxes all over the city. We paid artists to play along our commercial corridors, because we know that when our commercial corridors are thriving, when they're vibrant, when we have arts and culture, it also helps our small businesses. And so those are a few things that I wanted to get out there quickly.
Thank you. As mayoral candidate, how will you ensure that direct funding from organizations that provide stability and access continue to grow as the hotel tax recovers? How would you address the issue of equity in the arts?
Well, we need to, you see it in your priority with the budget, and you will see that in my budgets. I will be fully focused on our arts. But what we really need to do to get that hotel tax back up is that we need to draw tourism. We need to draw conventions. We need to draw visitors back downtown. We have a perfect example with Dreamforce. That's going to fill our bars, our restaurants, our museums are full this week, and that is great. And we've made public safety a priority this week. We need to make public safety a priority 365 days a year. Because what often goes, we talk a lot on the campaign trail about our small businesses that continually get broken into. But what we're not talking about is the artists and the gallery owners and the large entities and the small ones, whether you're talking about the Strand or ACT or SF MoMA. People are not going to shows as much because they're scared to come downtown. And so we have to make sure that we fully staff our police department, our sheriff's department, and our 911 dispatch office. We need to make sure that we get people off the streets that are struggling with mental health addiction and and mental health issues and drug addiction. It can't be with somebody with a badge and a gun that approaches people on the streets all the time. We need to have trained clinicians go out, pull people off the streets and into treatment, because that's what our visitors are seeing. If we can do the basics, and I will focus on public safety, making sure people struggling with mental health and drug addiction are off the streets, and then we get our visitors back, we get our conventions back, then our hotel rooms are full. I'm proud that I played a role not only in bringing Super Bowl 50 here in 2016 that brought $240 million worth of economic revenue to our region, but we have the NBA All-Star Game coming in 2025 to chase. We have Super Bowl 60 coming back in 2026. We have 6 World Cup matches coming, $1.4 billion of economic revenue. And guess what that means? Our galleries are going to be full. Hopefully ACT and our performing arts will benefit from that as well. And so I'm committed to going out and getting conventions, tourism back to San Francisco so we can have more funding for arts.
Thank you. Question 3 in 3 parts. Given the demand, would you support another UBI, Universal Basic Income program for individual artists? Would you support below market rate studios and workspaces for artists? What other steps would you, as mayor, take to ensure these artists can not only survive, but thrive?
Affordability is key, and let's talk about UBI if I forget to come back to it, but I want to talk about, I'm the only candidate that you're going to hear from today that actually has an arts platform. It's spelled out on my website. We need more live workspace. We need to make sure that we ensure more funding for our arts. We need to make sure that we're giving artists a living wage through the grants that we give out as a city. And the reason I talk about affordable housing so much is because I built it. I got a building built on Bryant Street on time, under budget, with good paying union labor. It was so successful that we're replicating that project. 135 units of senior housing, affordable housing. But we should be able to do that for our artists that are struggling to be in the city. We need to invite our creative class back to San Francisco. They need to be able to afford to live here and work here. So more live-work spaces will be a focus of mine. But we can do this. The building I got built was done in 3 years, $377,000 a unit. Compared to, on average right now, 7 years, $1.2 million. So just know that when you hear from all these City Hall insiders that you're going to hear from today and over the next few weeks, they have built up a broken system. They build it up, then they exploit it, then they tell you they're the only ones that can fix it. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. I've done it, I'll do it again, and we need to build more housing for our artists and our creative class. And UBI, that got politicized, which so often, so many of our grants are in this current administration. It's been politicized. Happy to talk to experts on it. I know we tried it. We don't know how it turned out. Once again, it seems to be another issue of lack of accountability and oversight. So happy to talk to experts on that.
Is that a no?
No, it was not a no. It was, I'm happy to talk to experts about it.
So you want to learn more about
Yes.
what a universal
And I also,
basic
no, I
income-
know what a UBI is. Very close friends with Mayor Tubbs. I know what UBI, but talking, you asked about specifically about artists, there was a plan that we tried this, it got politicized. We got to take politics out of it.
So the initiative is more important than the politics. Why it exists is more important than why it's politicized, in your opinion?
I'm saying we tried it. It didn't go very well. We actually don't know how it went. I'm happy to talk to experts that worked on it.
Okay. On November 4th, on the ballot, there will be 2 initiatives, D and E, focused on city commissions reforms. What are your positions on these measures and their effect on the arts?
Well, I caught the tail end of the mayor's talking points and talking about how you all are always having to scrape by. I'd ask you all, and I know this better in the nonprofit sector when we're talking about poverty fighting and poverty alleviation. Nonprofits are vastly underpaid. They are paid 12 months late, typically. How the process works now with all of these commissions is broken. Any time you have a commission overseeing a department that no longer exists, you have a problem. We have 130 commissions, we think. We're pretty sure. We absolutely need commission reform. You all deserve to know that your elected leaders, your supervisor and your mayor, are the ones to be held responsible, not unelected commissioners. Many of the 1,300 slots on these commissions are unfilled. So I think we have a broken system. I do support Prop D, and it is something that I'm happy to work with the Arts Commission on, the art and creative community on, but you have my commitment that arts funding will be much stronger under my watch than the current mayor's watch.
Thank you. You have about 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, first off, I love this space. I love this building. And what testament to our community that has built this and other great institutions in our city. And we need to hold on to that. We have to embrace our creative class. There is no coming back in terms of San Francisco coming back without our creative class. It's always what drives San Francisco forward, and it will again. And I will be a mayor that promotes the arts, that works with business leaders, civic leaders, nonprofit leaders to make sure that we all are working together to drive our arts community. That's been forgotten for quite a long time now. Mayor Bloomberg did it very well in New York City. He's one model where he understood that business, nonprofits, arts needed to come together. And I've talked to many leaders in the nonprofit and philanthropic space and in the art world that say everything is sort of fractured right now. Everybody's fighting with each other and fighting over scarce dollars. Well, we need to work together. I'll end by just telling you, they're gonna say a lot of things about me over the next 6 weeks. They're coming after me, and it's because I'm exposing this broken, corrupt City Hall bureaucracy. You all deserve better. I am going to practice the truest version of public service, not for personal profit or gain, but I am going to be a mayor that serves you, the people, the taxpayers, the residents, our artists, our creatives. I am so committed to turning around the city that we all love. I am all in. I'm all in to serve. I pledged this to a priest. I pledged this to a rabbi. I'm not seeking any other office after this. I'm going to do 8 years as your mayor. I'm going to be able to make the tough decisions because I'm not looking to go to Sacramento. I'm not looking to go to DC. I'm looking to turn around the city that we all love, and I know arts is going to lead the way, and you will have an extraordinary ally in me, someone that knows that San Francisco's best days are definitely ahead of us, but arts and culture and the creatives are going to lead the way. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lurie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Let's now welcome to the stage President Aaron Peskin.
Hello, Supervisor. Hello, Supervisor. Yes, that is your spot. Find your light. This is the theater. Welcome to the theater.
Good afternoon.
What are, Supervisor Peskin, what are some of the ways you would you would work to help energize the whole arts and cultural ecosystem? What are your priorities?
I feel like I'm Randall Klein. How many of you are members of SFJAZZ? Raise your hands. No, I'm sorry. Let me start by saying the obvious, which is that I co-authored Proposition E in 2018 to stabilize our hotel tax funding for the arts. I'm not from here. I come from the East Bay. And growing up, my parents took us to San Francisco almost solely for the purpose of arts and culture. And I moved here 35 years ago to North Beach because I absolutely loved what is really the food of San Francisco, and that's the arts and culture scene. And immediately fell in with a whole group of poets and characters. And many years later, when I ran for office in the year 2000, was endorsed by many of them, including Lawrence Ferlinghetti. And I've watched some of that erode as San Francisco has become a more and more expensive town. And to answer your question, first and foremost, it is about making sure that people artists particularly can afford to live here. And actually referring to Randall Klein, I've been working with Randall on actually building artist housing at the McCroskey mattress site and have been working to figure out ways to actually finance artist housing, and to that end finally got through all of the policy brain damage of figuring out that the city and county of San Francisco can actually offer lower interest loans for the construction of affordable housing. And actually last Friday stood up with the owner of the Warfield, who is the first person who is going to take advantage of that money that this just became law on September 1st, to build artist housing at the Warfield site. So I'm not talking about what I'm going to do when I'm mayor, I'm talking about what I'm already doing as a supervisor. There are many opportunities downtown, and I think that the work that I did last year to actually incentivize the building of live work in downtown, repurposing vacant office to housing, is part of that. But fundamentally, it is not talking about arts, it is actually working with arts. And Ms. Jensen and I actually experienced that in the wake of the pandemic, when a group of downtown interests got together to talk about the things that they wanted for the revival of downtown and kept talking about how important arts and culture were to the revival of downtown economically. And I said, let's stop talking about them and bring them into the room. And that is precisely what I want to do as mayor. I want to break down the silos. Arts is not just about the Arts Commission. It is not the only arts institution in the government. I think we need to actually imbue many departments with doing things to raise arts and culture in San Francisco. The Office of Economic and Workforce Development, I had a meeting with them just a few weeks ago, and I was asking them, what are they doing for arts? And because they have people who are specifically for entertainment and specifically for the rebuilding of Treasure Island and the Hunters Point Shipyard, and they said, we don't really have that position. I would have that position because I think we have to break those silos down. And most importantly, this city, I think, is being pushed in the wrong direction by some very conservative forces, and it is manifesting in many ways, including but not limited to a proposition that one particular billionaire put on the ballot that would actually eliminate the Arts Commission, Proposition D. And I'm not having it, and I am leading the way not only in standing up to those powerful interests, but in offering a sensible alternative, which is Proposition E. And it's easy to say it, but it actually takes a lot of leadership and a lot of courage to be able to try to push San Francisco in the right direction. In the Berkeley Public Schools, where I went to kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, believe it or not, with Kamala Harris. I don't mean the same school, I mean the actual same kindergarten, first, second, and third grade class. Our arts were a part of the curriculum, and we were imbued with that at a very early age. I'm not going to in any way claim that a mayor of San Francisco has control over curriculum or admission policies, but I have, and I think this is the reason I've been elected 3 times by my colleagues to be president of the board, the ability to lead by bringing people together. And I would like to reinvigorate the San Francisco Unified School District to make arts a part of the curriculum.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you.
Okay, question number 2 in 2 parts. As mayor, how will you ensure that direct funding for organizations that provide stability and access continues to grow as the hotel tax recovers? And how would you address the issue of equity in the arts?
Yeah, so let me start out by saying what I just said, which is this should not just be grants for the arts and the Arts Commission. I think that in the same way that diversity, equity, and inclusion has now, we have a mandate to do that in 53 departments. Real leadership would actually be to harness sources of money in many departments in many different ways, whether it's the public health department, whether it's the Department of Aging and Adult Services. Art should become a part of the way we think about what we deliver in every aspect. So it's not just growth of the hotel tax, and we talked about Proposition E. I've also been, matter of fact, I am now being excoriated for being a person who is willing to tax wealthy interests to support the things that we need in a society, the basic services that we need. Yes, public safety is absolutely one of them. So is the arts. So I am willing to stand up and say that we need to find new sources of revenue in order to sustain what I think is one of the basic services of San Francisco, and that is the arts.
Thank you so much. Given the demand, would you support another UBI, Universal Basic Income Program for individual artists? Would you support below market rate studios and workspaces for artists? And what other steps would you, as mayor, take to ensure these artists can not only survive, but thrive?
I am the only major candidate in this race. We just saw this at last week's debate that supports expanding rent control. I am the person who, on the Board of Supervisors, over 17 of the last 24 years that I have been in office, has consistently supported every single affordable housing bond. As a matter of fact, the one in March, with all due respect to our mayor, the mayor did not want to do because she knew that the people of the city and county were cranky and that it was polling poorly. And I said, I don't care. Let's put it on the ballot. Let's give it our best shot. And that is $300 million that the voters voted for by over 70%. In 2019, I put together with Supervisor Sandra Lee Fewer a measure on the ballot to build and streamline affordable housing for the San Francisco Unified School District, for teachers, for paras, and then in 2020 included money specifically for that in the 2020 bond, and we now have the Shirley Chisholm Apartments. That is an absolute model for artist housing in San Francisco, but I have clearly been the champion of affordable housing, and what I really think differentiates me from the other major candidates in this race is our vision for the future of San Francisco. My vision for the future of San Francisco is a city that is affordable to all of us. And while my opponents in this race keep talking about downtown, I'm talking about the economic recovery of all of our neighborhoods and arts in all of our neighborhoods. And that really is, to me, the difference between me and my competitors in this race.
Okay, thank you. This is the last question for you. And you touched upon it just a little bit before, but maybe you want to dig a little deeper. On the November ballot, there are two ballot initiatives, D and E, focused on city commission reforms. What are your positions on the measures specifically and their effects on the arts?
I'm going to answer your question, Ms. Jensen, but I'm actually going to start with something entirely different for just a second, which is corruption in city government. I just heard the last speaker speak to this, and you actually have to know how the government works in order to root public corruption out. And let me say just a little bit about this, which is, as the most recent revelations of public corruption, which we heard about last Thursday and Friday, were revealed, you're going to find out in the days ahead there was actually a nexus with grants for the arts. And you all who are recipients of grants for the arts funding may recall a choppy little moment just a couple of years ago where a political appointee was put in charge of something that Carrie Schulman had done superlatively for many, many years. And I am honored that she has endorsed me as a candidate for mayor, but we have to root out the corruption, not only because it erodes public faith and trust in the government, but it's actually costing millions and millions of dollars that we could be putting into arts funding and into other critical services, which is why I say that we really need to pass Proposition C on this ballot, which would create, I did research all over this country, actually including Hong Kong. The gold standard for rooting out corruption in municipalities is an office of the Inspector General with the power of search warrant and the power of subpoena. San Francisco doesn't have it and is arguably the city that needs it most, I'm sorry to say. And then let me move on to Proposition D. In the words of our esteemed former controller, Ed Harrington, who went on to be the general manager of the 7th largest utility in the United States of America, our Public Utilities Commission, that is our water and wastewater provider, he said that Proposition C is like going into a garden with a gallon of Roundup and killing all of the plants. Proposition E is like going in there as a responsible gardener and pruning some of the plants that have grown too large and not bombing the village to save it. I'm sorry, are the problems that San Francisco is experiencing a result of the Arts Commission? I don't think so. Is it a result of the Library Commission? Our libraries are actually held in high esteem. Is it the result of having a Public Health Commission that is populated with some of the most respected doctors in the United States of America? I don't think so. Could we reform our commission system of government and make it better and achieve efficiencies? Absolutely. But this is not the way to go about it. Proposition D is really about cutting out participation in government, both from experts like artists who get appointed to the Arts Commission, as well as by members of the public. The Arts Commission is actually a place where San Francisco artists can come to the arts infrastructure of the San Francisco government and say things like, you're not funding local artists. How come you're not making opportunities for us and local organizations? And you should reconsider how you allocate funds. All of that would go away. Prop D is against democracy. And it's really abhorrent. And by the way, most of, including the last gentleman who spoke to you, and Mr. Farrell, and initially Mayor Breed, like it because it consolidates more power in an already very powerful mayor system of government. Democracy is messy. Arts is messy, but it's the best, most beautiful thing that we have. So vote no on Proposition D, and vote yes on Proposition E, which is reform done right.
Well, thank you so much, President. You have about a minute. Would you like to say any last words in your minute, sir?
Yeah, let me, first of all, thank all of you for actually coming together and using this opportunity and imbuing all of the candidates and everybody who is participating with how important arts and culture really is to San Francisco. San Francisco has been a refuge for people all over the world precisely because of culture and precisely because it is so rooted and based in neighborhoods that make this city so incredibly special. And so much of that is under attack. And I ran for mayor simply because I wanted to be the choice in this race that sees things differently, that reasserts San Francisco as a refuge of otherness, and that has 24 years of experience doing this. I, with no disrespect to the last gentleman who spoke to you, when my toilet's broken, I generally hire a professional plumber to fix it. With that, thank you all for being here. And don't forget to vote for my kindergarten pal.
Thank you so much. The plumber. Thank you, President of the Board, Aaron Peskin. All right. Do I introduce the last one?
Yes.
All right. And last but not least, unless we have a surprise, coming to the stage is our Supervisor Ahsha Safaí.
Hello, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Great. Question number one. What are some of the ways you would work to help energize the whole arts ecosystem? And part two is, what are your priorities?
That's a great question. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I came to this country when I was about 6 years old as an immigrant. I was born into a family of artists. My father was an architect. My sister is a classically trained artist. So I grew up with a deep, deep appreciation for the arts, and it's something that I've carried with me my entire life. One of the ways in which we should energize the arts is putting them front and center. We do things like we have a Nobel laureate, a poet laureate for the city. We should have an artist laureate for the city. We should elevate how we are celebrating artists and put them front and center in our city. San Francisco is a city that has wonderful, wonderful cultures from all over the world. People have come here and immigrated to this place from different parts of the United States, different parts of the world, that are deeply committed to the arts. And so the way to energize that is to do more cultural celebrations, to have an artist laureate for the city where we're elevating that person, doing everything we can to infuse that into our youth programming, something that I have done out in the Excelsior as the District 11 supervisor. We're doing everything we can to support art programming for young adults in middle school and high school. So we want to celebrate that, uplift it. I see one of the people there that's deeply involved in arts in our community, and that is the way that you infuse and make arts a part of the culture of San Francisco and celebrate and elevate it.
Thank you. As mayor, how will you ensure that direct funding from organizations that provide stability and access continues to grow as the hotel tax recovers? And how would you address the issue of equity in the arts?
So we have the Arts Commission, we have many different organizations that are deeply embedded in that. But let's be clear about one thing. San Francisco is a strong mayor system. The money, the appointments to commissions, the choices on department heads, all of that rests with the mayor. The mayor has the authority to elevate, promote, and ensure that places like the Arts Commission, that the Center for the Arts, that all of the things that we're doing, whether it's classical arts and the symphony and the ballet, or if it's just community-based arts organizations, are a major part of the mayor's priorities. If you want to see what a city's priorities are, you look at the budget. You see where the funding is allocated, and as mayor, that will be a top priority for me with the power that's invested in that office. That means putting people in top positions. That means ensuring that not just the Arts Commission, but thinking about the way in which we promote and put people in positions of power, that they're coming from a perspective of respecting artists. And that's a very, very important part of the job that the mayor has. And protecting the hotel tax and ensuring that it's not reallocated in any other way.
Thank you. This question is in 3 parts. Given the demand, would you support another universal basic income program for individual artists? Would you support below market rate studios and workplaces for artists? And what other steps would you as mayor take to ensure these artists can not only survive, but thrive?
That's a great question. So I've worked in public service in this city for 24 years. I started under Mayor Willie Brown. I worked for Mayor Gavin Newsom. And when I was with Gavin Newsom, one of the things that we did is we went on a best practices tour. We went to other cities around the country. And this was 20 years ago. And Boston, 20 years ago, one of the cities we went to, they created an oversight body that had dedicated funding and ensuring that there was housing set aside for artists. We need to do things like that. And it was, by the way, it was a panel of artists to ensure that they were part of the decision-making process, to ensure that people that were applying were actually artists, not just because you say you're an artist, but you actually present your body of work, whether it's poetry, whether it's writing, whether it's sculpture, whether it's any medium, but that to ensure that that person's an artist. And then those are the people that are helping to decide, yes, we're going to set aside housing, and we should do that aggressively in San Francisco. Another thing, during COVID, there was a lot of conversation in our city about guaranteed income. And I took the initiative with my staff and others to do a food security program, to do guaranteed income. You call it something a little different. You have prepaid cards that can help people when they're purchasing food, whether they're helping them pay their rent. So if we need to expand, and can we expand programs like that for artists? Absolutely. And this is the time for San Francisco to step up to ensure that this city remains a city for all San Franciscans. I mean, that's really why I'm running for mayor. I'm running for mayor because I represent a part of town. If there's working and middle-class families that are still living in this city, they're living in the Excelsior Outer Mission. And they've been there for generations. You shouldn't have to be rich to live in this city. You shouldn't have to own $1 million home in the northern part of the city. All of the people that are running in this campaign, all of them are millionaires. Some of them are billionaires. And the mayor herself makes the same income as my wife and I combined. So I am the only person in this race that is a middle-class, working family person. I have been my whole life, and those are the people that I'm fighting for every day.
Thank you. On the November ballot, there are 2 ballot initiatives, and I bet you've heard a lot about them. D and E, focused on the city commission's reforms. What are your positions on these measures and their effect on the arts?
You know, it's unfortunate because a lot of this conversation about commission reform is really about some of the corruption that's been happening in our city, and it keeps rearing its head on a daily basis. Pick a commission, pick a department, and it's unfortunate that there's been an extreme abuse of power, there's been an extreme abuse of allocating money, and it's undermining people's confidence in our local government, and we deal with that on a daily basis. And so it is our job, it is the mayor's job to restore that confidence. The idea that whatever ballot, and one of them is going to pass, okay? One of them is going to pass. And one of them says, let's have a commission to study the commissions. That's one of them. Another one, that's just true. I'm just being honest, right? The other one is like, takes a hatchet and says, let's start at 65, but the board and the mayor can come together and decide. But the one that's kind of a bludgeon is basically saying, let's get rid of the Arts Commission. That's one of the ones. That doesn't mean it can't be put back in. So under any circumstance, we have to have an Arts Commission in this city, no matter what. So regardless of what the outcome is on D or E, and I am not taking a position on either one because I'm not going to step into that trap. I'm just being honest. I have taken a position on every other ballot measure. One of them is my student loan forgiveness for first responders, which we can amend later and add artists. If that ends up being something that the population says, we can add artists to it. But there's some really good ballot measures. But D and E, I think, are designed to be part of the political traps in this city. And I'll just say this, I, under every single circumstance, support ensuring that there's an arts commission. I will fight for that, and I will fight to ensure artists and their families and working people, struggling people, can be in this city.
So officially, no position?
No position on either one. Okay. At this moment.
At this, and what is today?
Hey, you know what?
You got 7 weeks.
It doesn't mean, believe me, I'm getting lobbied every 5 minutes on every single thing. Take a no on this, take a yes on that. And I'm like, I'm trying to be mayor. Let's stay focused here, guys. I mean, how many ballot measures do we have? Does anyone know?
We lost count.
Exactly. There's a lot.
That's a question for you.
No, there's quite a few. I think it goes all the way to O. That's a lot.
Well, thank you very much. You have 5 minutes and 55 seconds.
To wrap up. Good.
Yeah. What else would you like to say?
Good. Well, listen, you know, I started in this city 24 years ago under Mayor Willie Brown. And I've been all over San Francisco. I spent today back where I started over in the Tenderloin. And I think the Tenderloin for a long time, a lot of those SROs, a lot of those apartment buildings, people don't realize, a lot of working people, a lot of struggling artists, a lot of people that just have arrived to this city are trying to be there. I worked at the Housing Authority for 2 years under Mayor Willie Brown. We were dealing with gang violence, youth intervention work. I came back later in my career and worked for the janitors union there for almost a decade. But you see all different walks of life in that part of town, in that neighborhood. And it has been, where it is today compared to where it was 24 years ago is a travesty. The amount of suffering on the streets, the amount of drug addiction, the amount of fentanyl use, people see the fentanyl bend. We need to make, out of everything else, and of course the arts are important, and I'm going to fight for that every single day, but if we don't stop the number of people dying on our streets, if we don't hit that head on in a compassionate way, it's okay to say I'm going to clean up the street for Dreamforce, and it was super clean today, by the way, but in a couple weeks it's not. And that's not how you run a city. We have the resources in San Francisco, a $15.9 billion budget. I've worked for 2 mayors, was a deputy department head, worked in public works. I actually was out on the streets cleaning and greening, putting young people to work, formerly incarcerated, formerly unhoused. I then worked in the labor movement for almost a decade, and now I've been on the board for the last 8 years. So I don't take this lightly. You need to be ready for this job day one. And there are people that are literally trying to buy room 200. They are trying to write a check to make up for their lack of experience and ensure that they can come into this job. This job, you have to be ready day one. You have to know how to put a budget together, you know how to do the legislative process, and to some of your questions, you have to understand how government works, how the bureaucracy works, and how to bring people together. Everything that I have done and everything that I have been about for 24 years has been about fighting for working people, whether it was at the Housing Authority or Public Works, or now representing a working families part of San Francisco. And you shouldn't have to be rich to live in this city. You should be able to be an artist or a nonprofit worker or a janitor. Janitors used to be able to buy a home in District 11 30, 40 years ago on a janitor's salary. That is not happening today. Homes that were $100,000 to $200,000 are $2 million. But yet we have the highest rate of owner-occupied homes in the entire city. And we have the most diverse part of San Francisco. You know how I know? Because I knocked on thousands of doors to become elected. Thousands of doors. One house, African American. Next house, Vietnamese. Next house, Chinese. Next house, Latino. Next house, Filipino. And it goes on and on and on. Next house, Italian. Next house, Irish. Artist. LGBT. Everyone is represented in my part of town. And I am proud to have represented and fought for those people. So when you ask me questions about fighting for artists and working people, that's all I've done for the last 8 years. And if you want a mayor that's going to represent this city, that's going to fight for this city, and get away from the divisive politics, one side versus the other, my issue versus you. If you look at some of the things that I have done, whether it was the Student Success Fund, whether it was a citywide project labor agreement, or the work I did with Joe and Madonna and ArtSpan. First day on the job, we did a walk. And we talked about how we were going to bring artists to the Excelsior, how we were going to fill empty storefronts, and how we were going to bring ArtSpan to the Excelsior Outer Mission. And we have accomplished all of that. So if you look at my track record with the arts, with working people, I'll tell you, that's what separates me from the pack. So I appreciate the opportunity to come here today. Thank you for giving me this space. And yes, we got to stand up for artists. And yes, we got to stand up to make sure that all San Franciscans can live in this city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. I've got something very important to mention to everybody. And
who are you, sir?
Since Mark Farrell didn't show up, we have a few minutes in the program.
Can I ask who you are?
So at the beginning of the program, we were told there are only 5 candidates in this election for mayor. That's actually not correct.
Yeah.
There are 30.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Who are you?
Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you.
One of them. My name is Dylan Herschel.
Dylan, her.
I happen to be the only candidate with 2 undergraduate degrees from MIT.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm
we
sorry,
appreciate
sir.
you.
Very, very
and
sorry.
We will get more.
Very sorry, sir. Very sorry.
So
Thank you
sorry.
so much for
Appreciate you.
making that little pop-up visit. But thank
you know, if you want to make your voice heard or you want to be mayor, do the work.
That's
Appreciate
right.
it.
That's right.
And
Pound the pavement.
speaking of doing the work, before we bring out Miss Susie Maria is going to introduce, we heard a lot of information today. I will challenge everyone to go do their own personal research from the information you absorbed. There's a lot of contrasting narratives and information. So make sure you go do that research yourself so that you can be the most informed voter, all right?
Yes, and thank you all so much for your patience. I really appreciate it. So a round of applause for all of you for being here, staying here. This is the work that we all do as a community. And I know it's almost happy hour somewhere, and it's almost happy hour here, but before we turn you off to the bar to get good and rowdy, I do want to take a moment to introduce you to Susie McKinnon. And Susie, if you don't know her, is a tireless warrior for the arts. She's been managing, supporting, and uplifting the efforts of ABBA, and with love and devotion and a lot of hard work for the past several years. So this event this evening would not happen without Susie McKinnon. So Susie McKinnon, wherever you are, we would love for you to join us on the stage. And thank you all so much.
Thank you, Maria. That was a lovely statement. I really appreciate it. Hi, everybody. How are you? Thank you for being here. Your presence here today is really, really important, and it means a lot. So thank you so much. I want to thank SFJAZZ and the entire SFJAZZ team for just hosting us, and we are so fortunate to have this beautiful venue to have this event in today. So can I get a round of applause for SFJAZZ and their team? And none of this would have been possible without the very hard work and dedication and focus of our planning committee, our planning team. We've all been working on this for several weeks. There's lots of details that went into this, and I want to list them all off. I was going to bring them up onto stage, but everybody's kind of floating in different areas, so I just want to name them off. Marnie Cook, Vinay Patel, Joan Madonna, Lex Lifeheight, Maria Jensen, April Aim, Karen Johnston, and Rodney Jackson. This team has been amazing, so I just want to thank them again. And, I want to keep this short and sweet and invite you all for a reception. We have light refreshments on the second floor and the first floor lobby. We have about an hour and a half here, so I hope you all get to hang out and connect and meet with some of your friends and colleagues. And I just want to thank you all again for being here.